I also will mention that in Ukraine we have another problem. It's related because the situation are really close to the war action, almost around Ukraine. So Russian actors not only attack for ransom, but also for disruption the resources. So they try to destroy as many our systems and resources that they can.
Hello, and welcome to Public Key. This is your host, Ian Andrews. This episode is part of our Live from Links series. Over the next few weeks, I'll be bringing you interviews with the best speakers from the 2024 edition of the Chainalysis Links Conference. Just over 2 years ago, Russia invaded Ukraine, and Ukrainians have been bravely fighting back ever since. In this episode, I speak to Yevhenii Panchenko, who is head of operational analysis in the Cyber Police Department of the National Police of Ukraine. His presentation at Links this year finished with a standing ovation, and in this podcast, he discusses the global fight against Russian cyber actors who target not only Ukraine, but also every other Western nation. Yevhenii shares the important work his organization is doing to combat a variety of cyber threats, including investigating crimes related to cyber fraud, ransomware, and illegal content. We discuss the challenges Ukraine faces in stopping Russian organizations and the importance of international collaboration to ultimately ending these cyber threats. Yevhenii also announces their new project, SCAMFARI, and how that uses crowdsourced intelligence to identify crypto fraud activity. Now, before we dive into the episode, if you weren't able to attend the Chainalysis Links conference in New York, you missed a fantastic event. But not to worry, the Links digital experience is coming soon, and as an attendee, you'll get to see the best content from the in-person conference, plus some special digital-only content. You'll have the opportunity to live chat with compliance, investigation, and business strategy experts while receiving an exclusive hands-on view into our latest features. Register now by clicking on the show notes. Hey everyone, this is Ian Andrews, live from Links with another episode of Public Key. I'm joined on this episode by Yevhenii Panchenko, who is head of operational analysis of the Cyber Police Department of the National Police of Ukraine. Yevhenii, thank you so much for joining us this week at Links.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Obviously, we at Chainalysis care deeply about the fight in Ukraine for your independence and defeating the Russians. And so the work that you do is of huge importance to that. We'll talk about that in the conversation. But a personal thank you for taking time out from that fight to come to this conference and share your story and the work that your organization's doing, which I think is incredible. Your talk this morning on main stage, it was roaring applause, I think, from everybody in the room. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us. And also in my role, as you said, I'm a lead of one of the areas that I'm responsible for analysis, but not also for that. Sometimes we need to tell people what we do and what we've done on a perspective, how we fight also with Russians and what results we had in our daily jobs and activities. So it's important to be here and also speak with you. Thank you.
Well, and one of the things that really struck me in your presentation this morning is you're fighting in cyberspace with a number of Russian actors, but those Russian actors aren't just targeting Ukraine. They're targeting Europeans, Americans, Canadians, right? This is a global fight that you're undertaking on behalf of so many other countries. Talk a little bit about the work that your organization is doing and some of the things that you shared on main stage today. Excuse the early interruption, but before Yevhenii goes into their efforts, I just wanted to share with you a clip from his main stage presentation, where he talks about how the Ukrainian cyber police's focus drastically changed once the invasion from Russia took place in February 2022, to primarily combating Russian actors that were perpetuating this war. He touches on bot farms and the collaborative efforts of international law enforcement agencies to identify illicit crypto addresses associated with Russian cyber attackers.
What we do during the wartime. I will tell that our responsibility changed after the full-scale war started, after 24 February 2022. New directives were put under our responsibility. First of all, we search and collect the information about the collaborator and people who supports Russia. We also searched the Russian soldiers who committed the war crimes in the territory of Ukraine. We searched the resources or funding that Russian use for support their army and other illegal troops. We also provide some trainings about the information and cyber hygiene for our citizens. We do that almost weekly. We also provide some information about the cyber resistance as well as information resistance. Probably many of you name that type of illegal activity as psyops. And also I will say many of bot farms involved in that illegal activities. And they not only targeted Ukraine, they also targeted United States and European Union resources. In partnership with our volunteers, sources including volunteers, and our joint connection cryptocurrency exchanges, it became possible to quickly identify, attribute, and blocklist wallet addresses.
Let's jump back into the podcast and listen to Yevhenii discuss his team's responsibilities.
We are responsible for many things. In general, we of course investigate the crimes that committed in cybersphere. It's many that's really close to the people, to the also citizens, not from Ukraine, but from US also. I saw on the also main stage the cases that's related to fraud. Fraud is really a big problem now, and especially in cryptocurrency, because the transactions really fast. So we need to arrest the money, but it flows really, really fast. So fraud, it's like the main problem, or the really a big problem in Ukraine. But also we're responsible for investigate the crimes related to ransomware, to also illegal content, for example, child pornography. We investigate some crimes in bank sector, and also crime committed where we find the connections to the virtual assets. Only cyber police in Ukraine responsible for that type of the investigations in Ukraine. And of course, it's really a big challenge for us now because the legislative change, the technology also adopt really fast. And the actors, and criminal actors, used all the benefits that cryptocurrency give us.
Well, research that we've done at Chainalysis, it appears that the vast majority of ransomware activity globally, payments are going back to Russians. It's almost exclusively a Russian organized crime activity is what we can see in the on-chain activity. My understanding is that those same individuals are also targeting Ukrainian infrastructure, perhaps less so for ransoms, more in their kind of offensive cyber related to the war effort. What are you able to do from your position to stop some of these organizations?
Yeah, it's really big problem, and of course we can see the same situation. So really huge amount of funds in crypto goes to Russia. Why it's happened? Because probably all like democracy world and countries not use and not allow any exchanges to work in that perspective, so to launder the money after ransom. But yeah, Russians do that, and of course do in many cases. I also will mention that in Ukraine we have another problem. It's related because the situation really close to the war action almost around Ukraine. So the Russian actors not only attack for ransom, but also for disruption the resources. So they try to destroy as many our systems and resources that they can to get the access. In this situation, we don't have any magic keys or ideas how to prevent it or how to fight against it. We only do the systematic work for adopt the resources of our partners to new reality. So we provide some leads, we get them the information that could prevent attack. We also help them to deploy and integrate some systems which could help them in that situation and prevent the bad things that could happen with their resources.
What are you seeing in terms of activity, in terms of these cyber threats? Is it increasing or decreasing?
In Ukraine now,
Yeah.
of course, increasing.
Yeah.
Because as I told previously, so not only ransom now and target for Russian actors. They want to steal our data. They want to make the faces. And it's easy to realize than some ransom. So they not need to go dive into the system or application or server infrastructure. They just use the first connection, the first stage of access, and then destroy data or do the face for showing their powers for our citizens, so they could think like, okay, our military and other who are responsible for cybersecurity not so effective. It's of course really big damage, and also not only depend how they realize that. So sometimes they used also the contact who inside of organization, and in this situation we also find some links to the crypto. So they always try to pay in crypto for their agent who help them to commit a crime.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And so What role does your organization play in stopping this? I mean, obviously you can investigate blockchain activity. What does a day in the life of Yevhenii look like?
Yeah, we have an amazing day. Not only my day, it's also, I will describe the day of cyber policemen in general.
Yeah.
So we have the special units and the guys with really good knowledge in IT sphere. So they not only investigate the cases, but as I tell you, they also prevent the crime. So try to scrape data from the open sources, and sometimes we found the leads that give us some additional information could provided by other partners to prevent attacks, because Russian not so smart in some cases. Of course, they also have really good groups of actors that really organized, strict and effective, but they also have like a civil army. It's like a people who organize around some idea. For example, idea of DDoS our resources. And of course, if we find the group, we join also and try to prevent the attacks that we can see in a plan, in a perspective target of their activities. So it's one way. Also, we of course investigate the cases. So any cases related to cybercrime investigates in Cyber Police of Ukraine. And now we have almost all units who are responsible for all stages of investigation. So we could take the reports from our victims, start investigations, collect evidence, and then move the materials to the prosecutor for prosecute the cases and again move to the court.
Wow. Now, you mentioned open source intelligence. In your presentation this morning, you shared some screenshots from Telegram groups that your team had infiltrated. I know that we, in collaboration, I think with your organization perhaps, found Wagner Group, the paramilitary organization supporting the Russian side here, had been fundraising via Telegram. Is that continuing? I mean, we saw that U.S. levied sanctions against some of the people that were raising those funds, but do you still see that activity today?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
Especially after the sanction was provided by some clusters or exchangers, fundraisers campaign of Russians moved to the banking sector of Russia. So yeah, really difficult now to stop that because they use their own bank accounts card. They use their own moves for exchangers that also operate in Russian territory. So only one way is to try to get by missiles. But yeah, we don't have, unfortunately, in cyber police that way of the tools for that.
They don't give you access to those. So.
Yeah. So only cyber things.
Yeah.
That's why we try to, of course, label the addresses.
Yeah.
So we make some human. We proactively asked about the addresses that they used for collect money, and then also send that information to partners, to your organization, to other tools that help to prevent some types of fundraisers and any type of money laundering.
Yeah. Now, I know there's been, you mentioned partners, some interesting collaboration with U.S. agencies. I think there was some training that your organization to learn how to use Chainalysis and do more crypto tracing that happened a few months ago in Germany, I think. Talk about the international collaboration and some of the partnerships to support your efforts.
Studying was half a year in Germany.
Yeah.
And IRIS-T, the United States agency, really helps us. They pushes 5 licenses for us and also provides really good studying. So it was amazing course about the basic understanding of tools and deep dive to the technical issues that you have in a Chainalysis. So yeah, we cooperate with them a lot, and also other agencies, not from only US but also from European Union. We have good connection with Europol, Interpol and other international organizations. So it's only one way how to be really effective in the investigations that related to cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Because it has not border. That's why we need to cooperate and also helps information to each other.
Yeah. In your presentation this morning, you shared some successes where you had actually seized quite a bit of cryptocurrency and you had a number of arrests that had occurred. Maybe can you share a story or two?
Yeah, almost 1 million,
Amazing.
1 million US dollars we arrested in the cases that are really close to the fundraisers campaigns of Russian. Yeah, also Chainalysis helps us with leads data. We take it and also include in our investigations. The funny thing is that sometimes we found the people from Ukrainian territory who also donate to the Russian addresses. And the funny story was once when we come to the search action in a property of one guy, and he just said that like, I just donate to help the pets on the occupied territory. Of course, it's like, no, not true. Yeah, he understands
that's a
what
bad
he
lie,
do.
huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I have not any chance to find the addresses that we found and include in our investigation. That description would be like for help pets. Only for buy some night vision drones and other things.
Yeah.
Now he arrested and also in the prison. So
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good work. I'm curious about your opinion on the sanctions and their effectiveness, particularly in the crypto world. So Garantex is the big Russian exchange. They've been sanctioned by the US and by the European Union now, I believe. But when we look at their on-chain activity, it doesn't seem to have slowed down, right? There's still a large amount of money passing through that particular exchange. What's your perspective on this? Is there more that can be done to stop the flow of funds? Because it seems like it's a mechanism that the criminals are using to bypass the sanctions against Russia.
yeah, unfortunately, it's a big problem. And we know that it's not only problem for the cooperative exchanges who still works with Garantex or other exchanges from Russia territory, but it's also a big challenge because Garantex and other sanctioned entities always adopt their technology and how they works with crypto. So they start to create more addresses for receive the funds. They start to launder money ways that probably not so usual for that type of activity. And that's why we should again works hard, labeled addresses, recognize their networks and cooperate with exchanges that could help us in that perspective. We don't have some ideas how to change it today or in probably next hour, but in strategic plan of our work, of course, included the activities and tasks that could help us. So we not stopped and also enjoy to see other partners who could help us in that perspective. For example, we have really good group of volunteers who still on a regular perspective help us to recognize the addresses of sanctioned entities.
Interesting. Tell me more about the volunteers. Who are these people? Are they just Ukrainian citizens who are technologically enabled, sort of cyber sleuths?
Yeah. It's not only Ukrainians, many from US also connect with us and help us to find the information, sometimes also provide some investigation regarding Russians. Not only US, also some people from European Union, also other police officers.
Okay.
They do that on a volunteer based, but they're really smart and their technical knowledge really deep, so it's really help us.
You mentioned something during your presentation this morning. I think it was called SCAMFARI.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
It's also a volunteer project, and the main goal of the project is to collect addresses that belongs to the fraud clusters or could be used in a fraud perspective. Some maybe scam project, so the name tell the same. SCAMFARI. We try to find as many addresses that we can find in the internet and be proactively. So not only collect the data after our victims report us about the facts that happened and the crime that was committed, but also we try to deep dive into darknet, Telegram channels, other projects that probably publish on open web and understand what's the perspective. So sometimes after probably just 5 minutes of OSINT and checking the leaders of project that probably their successful projects was previously in history, you can understand that it's not about the investigation, it's about fraud. And today we have more than 600 users who already send leads for us, and we have confirmed more than 42,000 addresses that belongs to fraud.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool. The partners who organize that also work in Ukraine in some private sector, but they come to us and try to build that project for help us in the situation that we have now. So we only not focus on the fraud addresses, but also we try to find the fundraisers addresses that Russians use.
Yeah.
So it's including the numbers that I tell you.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the war, obviously, and about crime, but 2 years ago, I had the Deputy Minister for Technology from Ukraine on the podcast. One of the things that I was amazed about was the innovation happening in Ukraine on the technology front and kind of the embracing of cryptocurrency to support Ukraine's war effort. We talked a lot about the tens of millions of dollars that had been raised in the early days of the war to support Ukraine. How is the tech scene today in Ukraine? Is it still, are companies, I know we talked about DIIA City and kind of the startup culture there as well. Has that survived despite the war?
Yeah. I'm impressed about the results that Ministry of Digital Transformation has in Ukraine.
Yeah.
So it's amazing things. For example, DIIA, the application DIIA, it's probably first application in the world that we have in our pocket the documents that we need for daily life. So it's driver license, it's passport that's could used in any type of agencies and
You've got all that
governments.
digitally on your phone now?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, we don't have that in the US. You're well ahead of us. I wish I could have my driver's license on my phone.
It's always surprised the people,
Yeah.
especially not from Ukrainian.
Yeah.
I used it only once in Dubai.
Yeah.
It's impressed many.
Did they know what to do with it when you were in Dubai? When you
I
showed
don't know, maybe they don't understand correctly, but I tell that it's only one passport that I have with me, so
That's amazing.
it's really cool. And DIIA City, it's also a cool project. I know that many companies from IT sphere also join to that
Yeah.
project because they have some special conditions for do their business in that type.
Yeah. I know that we have listeners to the podcast who want to support Ukraine. What would you recommend as being the most impactful thing that they could do to help the work you're doing or other aspects of support for Ukraine?
Yeah, it's really important questions. Thank you. Of course, if they have some special knowledge in cryptocurrency investigation or blockchain analysis, they could contact with me. I could also leave my contact to you or in a podcast. We could organize their activities and try to use their knowledge in the best way that we can. If someone wants to donate for Ukraine, so not used, it's not like recommendation to which addresses you need to use, but it's recommendation to which addresses you should not donate, because many of frauders today create the campaign that's really looks like the same, like original, but it's of course the fake. So only really famous project, only official sites could help the people who wants to help Ukraine to donate, because we know that we have now really good many of funds that represent in the internet their resources, and if you just Google and try to find famous funds, it's okay.
Yeah.
But never try to send money to some advertise that you can see or some pages that you never seen before,
Right.
Especially if they show you the pictures that looks like a true, so they want to involve you because they used your emotion.
Yeah. Be safe out there. Don't donate to a random site.
Yeah.
Definitely don't click on an advertisement. Be certain about where you're directing your money if you're donating.
Of course.
This is a good lesson. Don't fall victim to a scam while you're trying to help people. Well, that's amazing. We'll include your contact information so that if anyone listening that has blockchain analysis skills and feels like they can contribute, we'll be able to get in touch with you. This is amazing. Thank you again for spending time with us, and best of luck in all your efforts.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Hey there. Thanks for listening to another episode. If you enjoyed what you heard today, do me a favor, open up your podcast app, rate the show, give us 5 stars. Give us a review too. Tell me what you liked. Even better, share the podcast with your friends. And of course, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Much of the Russian cyber attacks that we discussed on this episode had to do with ransomware. And in our recent blog, the Chainalysis team discusses the historic surge of ransomware incidents and payments in 2023, which was followed by significant actions against ransomware actors in late 2023 and early 2024, including notable disruptions on CACBot malware, the Lockbit, and ALPHV Black Cat ransomware as a service groups. At the same time, an increase in diversification in malware strains, the strategic reinvestment in future attacks, and the ability to quickly adapt and rebrand in the face of adversity highlight the resilient and dynamic nature of the ransomware ecosystem. And this is just evidence of what Ukrainian and global cyber police departments are up against. To see all the details, including reactor graphs and charts about these disruptions and associated ransomware payments, head down to the show notes and you'll find a link to more information.